So let's go for a bit of a drive. I'm parked on the side of the road. I'm going to pull into traffic, so I'm checking my centre mirror, my right mirror. I'm indicating right, and I'm checked my right blind spot over my right shoulder. So you're going to be nervous at the start of the test. Everyone is nervous. The testing officers are all on your side. They just want you to be safe and aware and prove that you are worthy of having a license. So the route I'm going to go today is not the test route. We're not allowed to show you the test route for good reason. I don't want you to learn how to pass the test on the test route and then die as soon as you get off the test route. But there are going to be some of the more complex situations in Paraparaumu that we go through. Just past a diamond on the road, which means a pedestrian crossing is coming up. I'm going to turn right, so I'm checking my right mirrors, my centre mirror, indicating right and checking my blind spot over my right shoulder. I'm coming into a full stop in a position where I can see all vehicles, and I'm turning into my closest lane. I'm going to change lanes to the left, so mirrors indicate blind spot to the left. For a railway crossing, you must look left and right and be able to stop if there is a train coming and the signals are faulty. If we stop on these yellow lines, that's an instant fail in the test. I'm going to turn left. So I've just put my left hand indicator on. I'm going to leave my blind spot and mirror check until I have a green light. There we go. So check my mirrors, check my blind spot. Scanning for hazards. Yeah, the test is broken down into two stages. Stage 1 is just turning left and right. You might do some traffic lights, and they'll ask you to do either a reverse parallel park or a 3-point turn. They prioritise the reverse parallel park, so you'll only do a 3-point turn if they can't find a suitable reverse parallel park for you. The speed limit here is 50. If I was to go 10 kilometres or more below the speed limit for no reason and holding up traffic, that would be risking a too slow error. There's lots of reasons why I would go too slow. Traffic, pedestrians, parked cars, narrow street, weather, potholes, roadworks. But if there's no reason and you are holding up traffic, then you're risking an error in the test for too slow. At the traffic lights, I'm going to turn right. I have a right arrow, but I'm anticipating the orange arrow. And if we can stop, we must stop. And we have a green light and a red arrow, so we cannot go. When the red arrow disappears, we're allowed to move into the centre of the intersection. And here we wait and we turn when it's safe. When we have a marked lane like this, we must travel in the centre of our lane. This is one of those situations where the speed limit's 50. I'm only going 35 because there's a lot happening. And now the hazards have drifted away. I'm back to sort of 45. And when we're approaching the roundabout, we're going to turn left. So I'm checking my centre mirror now. I'm checking my left mirror. I'm indicating left, and I'm checking left over my left shoulder for my blind spot. I'm scanning to the right. There's a gap for us. Gently accelerating while we're turning, and then get up to speed nice and quickly so we're not holding up those cars behind us. I'm going to take the next turn on the right. So I've checked my rear mirror, my side mirror on the right. I'm indicating, quick check in my blind spot over my right shoulder. And I'm making sure that I don't cross any white lines as I'm turning the corner. Ideally, I'm going to pass parked cars 1.2 metres away. That's just far enough that if they open their door, we're not going to hit them. Sometimes you can't do that, and I would suggest in those situations, you just go an appropriate speed. So aiming for 1.2 metres beside this ute. And then on a road with no centre line, we must travel as far left as practical. So back over to the left here, and then drifting out 1.2 metres away from these cars. And 1.2 metres is just far enough that if they open their door, we're not going to hit them. A tricky corner here, it's quite sharp, so we're going to get our speed right before we get into the corner. Let's go have a look, see if we can find a reverse parallel park. So I'm turning left, mirrors indicate blind spot to the left, position as far to the left as possible. Nice and controlled speed around the corner. And then at the end of this road, we're going to do a U-turn. So best practice, I would suggest we go as far over to the left as possible. Mirrors indicate blind spot to the right. And then go all the way around the very outside. And that will get us on the correct side of the road when we turn the corner. At the end of the road, we're going to turn left. So center mirror, left mirror, indicate left blind spot, position as far to the left as possible, give way to the right, nothing coming, so we're good. Okay, turning left again, so mirrors indicate blind spot, position the vehicle left, nice and controlled around the corner. There's no parallel park, so I will do a 3-point turn. To pull off the road, mirrors indicate blind spot to the left. Looking at my left mirror so I can see how close I am to the curb. And then when it's safe, we're going to do a 3-point turn. So I recommend turning all the way to the right. Mirrors indicate blind spot to the right. Stopping before I touch the curb on the other side. Into reverse, all the way to the left on the steering wheel. Must do a 360 check around the vehicle before I move in reverse. That's including physically checking out the back window. Stopping before I touch the curb at the back. Into drive, turn all the way to the right. Looking to the left to make sure no one's squeezing in front of us. And then when it's safe, we're leaving. Well, some of you might have noticed I turned the steering wheel while the car was stopped. That was called dry steering. There might be a few of you amongst you who think that that's wrong. The theory is it puts extra pressure onto your steering rack and steering components in your car. And I think that might have been true at one point, but I don't believe it hurts modern cars. I'm certainly happy for students to do it all day, every day in my personal driving instructor car. Doesn't worry me at all. And I've never had a problem with any steering or components in any of my cars. Nor have I ever heard of anyone having a problem. So I don't think dry steering is an issue. So this is one of those roads where, you might want to go 40 instead of 45 or 50. It's a little bit tight. Got kids on bikes, etc. Before I cross the centre line, mirrors indicate blind spot to the right. Make sure no cars are coming. Indicate left to come back. And then at the give way here, we're going to turn right. So centre mirror, right mirror, indicate, checking our right blind spot, coming to us. We don't need to stop, it's a give way, but we do have to give way to traffic. So we must come to a stop in a position where we're not impeding them. And then when it's safe, and then there's no reason today why I shouldn't go up to 50 on this road. So I'm going to put my speed at about 45, which gives me a little bit of a buffer from a too slow error that we talked about. And the errors for too fast, 5 kilometers over for less than 5 seconds is an error. 5 kilometers over for more than 5 seconds is a fail. And 10 kilometers over at any stage is an instant fail. The recommended speed for this corner was 35. That's for the stop sign there. Quite a dangerous corner. So I'm going back to 45 now. And when we get to the roundabout, we're going straight. So before I slow or brake, I must check my center mirror just to see what's happening behind me. At a roundabout, I'm giving way to the right, not stopping unnecessarily. To go straight, I indicate left to leave. That's the only indication that's required. Marked road, so I'm travelling in the centre of my lane. I haven't mentioned it yet, but all of these side streets, I'm turning my head down each one. It's just a quick look because we don't want to lose too much focus from what's ahead. Diamond on the road means a pedestrian crossing, so I must scan left and right. And I like to think about kids coming at 50 k's an hour on their electric devices. Must be doing no more than 30 when we pass the 30 sign. If we pass that sign at 35, it's an error. If we pass it at 40, it's test over. Another diamond on the road, so that means a pedestrian crossing coming up. Scanning left, scanning right, being prepared to brake. And at the end of the road, we're turning right. So mirrors indicate I'm checking my blind spot, even though I don't need to because there's a traffic island next to me, but I just want to keep that muscle memory. And we're turning right, and there's a filter lane here. So I must go between the two white lines. And then remember, it's 30 kilometers per hour. The speed doesn't reset just because we've gone around the corner, and we cannot go more than 30 until we are past the 50 sign. So in the test, if I were to pass this sign at 35, that would be an error. If I was to pass it at 40, that would be test over. Now I can speed up. There's no reason why I can't go 45, so I'm going to select 45 as my ideal speed. So I was talking about scanning. So as we come down the road here, we should be scanning left to see any hazards. Here we should be scanning right for hazards. It's not a long look. Most of our attention should be what's in front of us. It's just enough that if we looked and there was someone who was not going to stop, we would have a little heads up. The testing officer will expect you to know what's going on around your vehicle at all times during the test. That means you need to check your mirrors regularly. Recommended is every 8 to 12 seconds. So that doesn't mean I'm taking my eyes off the road and I'm checking my left mirror, then my center mirror, then my right mirror, because then I've had my eyes off the road for a couple of seconds. What I'd recommend is regularly checking your center mirror. I probably do that maybe every 5 seconds. And then looking ahead again, and then maybe every 10 seconds I'll flick out to my right hand mirror. I'll look ahead and then I'll flick to my left hand mirror. So the testing officer is not going to sit there with a stopwatch and say, ha, 17 seconds, you haven't checked your mirrors. But they will expect you to know what's going on around your vehicle at all times. When I have a marked lane, I must travel in the centre of my lane. My recommended speed is 45 for this corner. It's only a recommendation. But our whole aim is to convince the testing officer that we're an aware and responsible driver. So I think for the test we should listen to those signs. Still staying in the centre of my lane if possible, not cutting corners, not cutting across white lines. Beautiful day in Kapiti today. So it's a relatively straight stretch of road, so I'm just making sure that I'm checking my mirrors every 8 to 12 seconds, that I'm scanning side streets, and that I've made my speed appropriate for the conditions. So for here, I'm going 45, 47, something like that. So the first 10 minutes of the test is called stage 1. You're allowed no more than 1 error in stage 1. If you were to get 2 critical errors, that would be test over, and the testing officer would direct you back to the testing station and debrief you once you get there. Stage 2 is more complex. You might go through busy intersections, shopping centres, roundabouts. You might go on the motorway, although in Kapiti we don't. You might do higher speed areas. We do an 80 kilometre per hour in the test in Kapiti. And you're allowed no more than 2 critical errors in the entire test. If you get 3, they will direct you back to the testing station and give you bad news. I'm slowing to 30 before the sign, checking my centre mirror before I slow down. And we have pedestrians here. It's not a crossing, but pedestrians often don't know that, and they'll walk out in front of you sometimes. This is a pedestrian crossing, so I must scan left and right and be prepared to stop. Here's another one, so another scan left and right, be prepared to stop. And there's another diamond on the road, so there's another pedestrian crossing coming up. I'll scan left and right and be prepared to stop. Up ahead you can see the 50 sign. I'm not allowed to go more than 30 until I pass that sign. Now I can go more than 30. And at this roundabout we're going to turn right. So I'm checking my centre mirror, my right mirror, I'm indicating right. I don't need to check my blind spot because there's a traffic island next to me, but I still do it for consistency. I guess there could be a motorbike zipping up the inside there. Must indicate left to leave, and I would do that as soon as I pass the exit before mine. So speed limit's 50, and we've got a big truck here, so I'm just going to select 40 as my appropriate speed. As I get towards the front of the truck, my foot's over the brake just in case someone ran out in front of the truck. Now we're clear. I'm selecting a speed closer to 50. We have a bike lane on our left here. We're not allowed to go into the bike lane unless we're pulling into a driveway or we're turning left, and we must check our mirrors, indicate, and check our blind spot before we do that. At the roundabout we're going straight, so I'm checking my rearview mirror. I'm slowing, I'm looking to the right. There are no hazards, so I'm entering the roundabout, indicating left. Then I'm getting back up to speed. A roundabout is not a stop sign. You shouldn't stop unnecessarily. If you imagine the roundabout as a clock and we enter at 6 o'clock, then we should be giving way to anything from 3 to 6. And if there is a car at 3 o'clock, we should be looking to see whether they are giving way to someone else and shielding us, making sure we can go. If we're giving way to the rights and there's a car coming straight through, that car is also shielding us and giving us a safe space to go. Very common in the test to get errors for stopping unnecessarily at a roundabout. Right, so I'm checking all the side streets. I'm checking my mirrors every 8 to 12 seconds. I'm driving at appropriate speed, and I'm positioning the vehicle in the centre of my lane. I'm going to turn left up here. So I'm checking my mirrors, I'm indicating left, I'm checking my left blind spot. So long as there's no cyclists, I can position myself over the cycle lane for up to 50 metres before I turn left. That gets me out of traffic. Nice and controlled as we go in the corner, and then when we straighten up, we select our appropriate speed. The speed limit here is 50 again. However, I think 50 is too fast. I think 40 is appropriate for me here. And remember, if you've got a reason, you don't have to keep going fast. But there must be a reason, and you must not hold up traffic behind you. Maybe 45 is appropriate here. Staying left, making sure this car is giving way for me. Checking all the side streets, checking my mirrors regularly. And we don't have a centre line, so in that instance I must stay as far left as possible. And remember, 1.2 metres from parked cars, ideal. Back over to the left. I can squeeze in this gap here. Going left, mirrors indicate blind spot. Position as far to the left as possible. Giving way to the right, there's nothing there, so I don't have to stop. And then this is a much wider road, so 45 to 50 is completely appropriate here. The first stage is 10 minutes long, the second stage is 35 minutes, so in all you do approximately 45 minutes of practical driving in your test. There is another 15 minutes of admin, things like checking your car, checking your license, and afterwards giving you some feedback and hopefully writing out your temporary license. Still checking side streets, checking mirrors. Keeping an eye on this guy on the left, he looks like he wanted to pull out in front of me. In the test, you will need to be familiar with all the controls of your vehicle. Before you move from the testing station, they'll ask you to operate things like horns, indicators, to show where the front and rear demisters are. If something happens during the test and you need to operate in control, the testing officer is not allowed to help you if you're unable to, for example, put the window wipers on, clear the front windscreen if it fogs up. Then you would be demonstrating you're not familiar with all the controls in your vehicle. Turning right at the roundabout, so I'm checking my centre mirror before I slow down, indicating, checking my right mirror, my blind spot for consistency, even though I don't need to because there's an island there. Indicate left when I'm past the exit before mine. And coming to a stop close enough that I can see the road under the back tyres. That gives me a little bit of a buffer. And I must look left and right. Selecting an appropriate speed. So you'll see the car in front. When they pass something, we'll do the bus stop. I'll start counting. The shadow they're passing now. 1 A, B, 2 A, B, 3 A. So we're 3 seconds behind the car in front. In dry conditions, you must be a minimum of 2 seconds behind. And if it's wet, you must be a minimum of 4 seconds behind. Kiwis in general follow way too close. Distance gives you time, time gives you safety. Select at 50 here because it's quite a wide straight road. I don't want to hold anyone up. Scanning side streets, checking mirrors, keeping an eye on all the hazards around me. This roundabout we're going to turn left. So centre mirror, left mirror, indicate left, left blind spot, giving way to the right. You can see this red car doesn't have its indicator on, the black car doesn't have their indicator on, so we can assume they're going straight and just be prepared if they're indicating incorrectly. Back up to speed. Speed limit's 50, I'm going to select 45. I get lots of questions about the correct steering method. For your restricted test, you are expected to have two hands on the wheel at all time unless operating controls. Best practice is your hands at 9 and 3 and using the push-pull steering method. That keeps your arms in the safest position should that airbag ever deploy. But it doesn't matter for the test if you want to use 10 and 2 or have your hands at different positions. So long as you have both hands on the steering wheel, you're all good. You're allowed to cross your arms when you turn, hand over hand method. So long as you have your two hands on the steering wheel at all times unless operating controls, that will satisfy the testing officer. Push-pull method is a safest method for steering, and I recommend you have a look at that and try and implement it if you can. We've passed a 60 sign. The speed for this corner is recommended at 55, so I'm going 55. I'm staying in the centre of the lane as I'm turning, checking left for hazards. This 30k ahead is just a warning. You must be going 30 before the sign, so I'm checking my centre mirror. I'm braking down to 30, and now I'm going 30. So remember, 30 is a maximum speed. So I would position my speed a little bit below 30, maybe 28, something like that. And that gives you a little bit of a buffer. So no more than 30. Don't lock on to the car in front. Chances are they'll be speeding and you'll fail the test. So even more vigilant when we're going through roadworks. There could be road workers, there could be machinery. They'll be focused not on you but on the task that they're doing. Sunday today, so there's no one working, but it's still a 30k area. And we're not allowed to do any more than 30 until we pass the 60 sign up here. Sometimes the guys behind you will try and push you along by coming close to you, but the limit is the limit. Okay. Now I've passed the 60 sign. I'm going to set my speed to 55. I'm going to aim for the centre of the lane if possible, and still scanning side streets and checking all my mirrors regularly. We're coming up to a railway crossing. At a railway crossing, you must scan left and right and be doing a speed that enables you to stop before the railway lines if there is a train coming and if there is a fault in the signals. So I'm looking in my rearview mirror. I'm slowing down to around 20, looking left, looking right, all clear. I can cross. This is a tricky roundabout here. I'm going to turn right, so we're in the correct lane already. There is an 80 km/h sign there which we'll take note of. I'm checking my mirrors indicating right. And then here I must give way to two lanes of traffic coming quite fast to the right. I'm going on to the inside lane. And by far my preference here is to use the flush median, because we're turning right, we're allowed to. Scan left, staying in the middle of my lane, indicating left to leave the roundabout, and then remembering that 80 speed, get up to 80 nice and quick. Now to merge, mirrors indicate in blind spot in the direction you're merging. The speed limit's 80. So ideally we're going to be between 70 and 80. And I would recommend in your test, if it's safe, 75 would be a good speed to protect yourself from going too slow or too fast. Very careful when you're going downhill, as the speed might creep up. And the speed limit here is 80, so if I was to go 85 for less than 5 seconds, that would be an error, critical error. And if I was to go 85 for more than 5 seconds, that would be a fail, and the test would be over. They'll direct you back to the testing station. The higher speed areas are one of the last things you do in the test, so if you've made it this far, keep concentrating. It's not far to go, not long to go. Cyclist on the left, I must give them a minimum 1.5 meters. I'm positioning myself as far right as I can, and I must be going 50 before I cross the speed sign. Remember, I must check my center mirror before braking. Back into the center of my lane, we're past the cyclists, watching the hazards on the left. Now, it's really common to get speed errors after exiting a higher speed area because your brain is adapted to the high speed, and 50 seems very slow. So be very vigilant on your speed once you've exited a high speed area. Going straight and turning off the road, so mirrors indicate and blind spot to the left is required because I'm crossing white lines and I'm turning off the main road. Speed here, 40. It's a little bit hard to see over the rise. At the bottom of this hill, I'm going to turn right. If you have a look at the road, you'll see there's a broken white line in the middle of the road. That's our center line. And mirrors indicate blind spot to the right. And we have a solid white line, and we have a gap in the solid white line. So this gap is where we want to turn. That means we're in the right position to not cut that corner. I'm going to turn left here, so mirrors indicate blind spot, position to the left. At the end of the road, we're going to turn around. So I'm going to stay left. Before I turn right, mirrors indicate blind spot to the right. Around the very outside of the turning circle, that'll get you on the correct left side of the road as we exit. Turning left, mirrors indicate blind spot to the left, position to the left, stay left as we turn. That enables a car turning right to turn right at the same time. We're almost back at the testing station. When we get round the corner, you'll be instructed to pull off the road. I'm going in appropriate speed for this tight corner. Scanning for hazards. Mirrors indicate blind spot to pull off the roads. You want to be about 30 centimetres or less from the curb. Come to a full stop, into park, handbrake on, and then you can relax. The test won't finish until you're into park, handbrake on, so don't relax until you've completely stopped. And hopefully, this is 45 minutes later, you've made no mistakes. Congratulations, you've passed your test. I hope that was useful for you.